NATO chief scoffs at Putin's red line rhetoric. In a bold rebuke to Russian saber-rattling, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has dismissed Vladimir Putin's latest red line warnings as empty threats. Speaking to the Times, Stoltenberg mocked the Russian leader's history of unfulfilled ultimatums, stating bluntly, "There have been many red lines declared by him before, and he has not escalated." The NATO chief's comments come in response to Putin's stern warning that allowing Ukraine to strike Russian territory with Western long-range missiles would cross a dangerous threshold. However, Stoltenberg seemed unfazed, asserting that Putin realizes that NATO is the strongest military alliance in the world. Kremlin fires back, NATO's stance dangerous and short-sighted. Moscow wasted no time in hitting back at Stoltenberg's provocative remarks. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov blasted the NATO leader's position as extremely provocative and dangerous, accusing him of displaying ostentatious desire not to take seriously the Russian president's statements. Peskov warned that such cavalier dismissal of Putin's threats was completely short-sighted and unprofessional. The sharp exchange highlights the escalating war of words between Russia and the West as the conflict in Ukraine grinds on. Putin's ultimatum, a new line in the sand. The Russian president drew his latest red line in dramatic fashion, declaring that the use of Western long-range missiles against Russian soil would fundamentally alter the nature of the conflict. It would mean that NATO countries, the USA and European states, are fighting with Russia, Putin proclaimed ominously. But skeptics point out that Putin has cried wolf before. As one analyst noted, Russia has drawn red lines before, and seen them crossed before. The question now is whether this latest ultimatum carries more weight, or if it's simply another bluff in the high-stakes geopolitical poker game. Strange bedfellows, Trump Jr. and RFK Jr. sound the alarm. In an unexpected political alliance, Donald Trump Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. have joined forces to warn of potential nuclear escalation. In a joint op-ed for The Hill, the unlikely duo urged the Biden administration to open direct talks with Russia, cautioning, "Firing us missiles into Russia would inevitably lead to a nuclear exchange." The pair accused the White House of mistaking Russia's restraint for weakness and dramatically declared that this game of nuclear chicken has gone far enough. Their intervention adds a surreal twist to the already complex debate over Western military aid to Ukraine. NATO's delicate balancing act, supporting Ukraine without crossing the line. As the alliance walks a tightrope between backing Kiev and avoiding direct conflict with Moscow, Stoltenberg emphasized that individual NATO members, not the alliance itself, decide on weapons authorizations. He praised allies like Britain and France for loosening restrictions on long-range missile use, but stressed that such decisions remain sovereign choices. The NATO chief also pushed back against claims that allowing strikes on Russian territory would implicate the alliance in the war. It's wrong to say that NATO allies would be a party to the conflict if they allow the weapons to be used against legitimate targets on Russian territory, Stoltenberg insisted. Ukraine's plea, "Don't let Putin's threats deter support." Ukrainian officials are urging Western allies not to be cowed by Russian bluster. Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha argued that the West should ramp up support for Kiev despite Putin's threats, asserting that the Russian leader does nothing beyond talking. Kiev has long sought permission to use long-range Western missiles to hit Russian air bases and military facilities used to launch attacks on Ukrainian cities. The debate over granting this authorization has become a crucial flashpoint in discussions of Western military aid. Nuclear specter looms as tensions simmer. As rhetoric heats up on all sides, the shadow of potential nuclear escalation hangs over the conflict. Senior Russian politicians and foreign policy hawks have hinted at the possibility of a nuclear response to deep strikes on Russian territory. In an ominous development, the head of Russia's nuclear testing site recently declared that his facility was ready to resume testing at any moment. However, Stoltenberg remains adamant that Putin understands the catastrophic consequences of nuclear warfare. They also realize that nuclear weapons, nuclear war, cannot be won and should not be fought, the NATO chief asserted. And we have made that very clear to him several times. A precarious path forward. As the war in Ukraine approaches its third year, the international community finds itself navigating an increasingly treacherous diplomatic minefield. With Putin drawing new red lines, NATO calling his bluff, and nuclear fears bubbling to the surface, the stakes could hardly be higher. The coming weeks and months will likely prove crucial in determining whether cooler heads prevail or if the conflict spirals into uncharted and potentially catastrophic territory. As one senior NATO military official ominously noted, Ukraine would have good military reason to strike deeper into Russia using Western weapons. The world now watches with bated breath to see if that fateful decision will be made and how Moscow might respond if its latest red line is indeed crossed. Subscribe for more.